Long before the first maps of America were ever drawn by European hands, this land was already home. It was a continent teeming with stories, with families, and with history. For thousands of years, the first peoples of this land lived and thrived. They built cities that rivaled those in the ancient world. Some nestled in canyons, others rising from the great river valleys. They learned to read the seasons in the stars and the soil. Their history is not just a prelude to someone else's arrival. It is a foundational epic, a grand story written across the mountains, plains, and forests of an entire continent. They looked at a wild grass called teosinte, and over countless generations of careful cultivation transformed it into maize, what we now call corn. This single act of agricultural genius would change the world, feeding civilizations far beyond these shores. They looked at the great trees of the forest and hollowed them out, creating sleek and silent canoes that could navigate the vast network of rivers and lakes. To speak of Native Americans as a single group is to miss the beautiful complexity of this continent before European contact. This was not one nation, but hundreds of them. It was a land of staggering diversity, a mosaic of peoples, each with its own unique language, its own distinct culture, its own way of life. Pacific Northwest, Tlingit and Haida, magnificent cedar plank houses, towering carved totem poles, masters of the sea, Great Plains, Lakota and Cheyenne, nomadic life and moving camps, lives revolving around buffalo herds. Northeast, Haudenosaunee or Iroquois Confederacy. 5, later 6, nations united under sophisticated democratic council. Elaborate trade networks crisscrossing the land, obsidian from the Rockies, shells from the Gulf Coast, copper from the Great Lakes. A dynamic, ever-changing world. Nations interacting long before Europeans arrived. Not a static wilderness, but a vibrant, populated land filled with the complex, compelling drama of human societies. The arrival of European ships in the late 15th century marked the beginning of a profound and often tragic transformation. This was not a simple discovery but a collision. For native peoples, it brought forces they could neither have anticipated nor controlled. The most devastating of these forces were invisible. European explorers and settlers brought with them diseases, smallpox, measles, influenza, to which the indigenous peoples had no immunity. These silent killers swept through communities with terrifying speed, wiping out entire villages and destabilizing powerful nations. In many regions, populations were reduced by as much as 90% within a few generations. Conflict was inevitable as the newcomers sought land and resources. The clash was not just over territory but over fundamentally different ways of seeing the world. These conflicting worldviews led to centuries of warfare, broken treaties, and forced removals as native nations fought to defend their ancestral homelands against the relentless tide of westward expansion. Yet through it all, native peoples survived, they resisted, they adapted, and they endured. The story of this era is not only one of loss, it is also a powerful testament to the resilience, the strength, and the unbreakable spirit of the continent's first peoples. At the very heart of every Native American culture is a deep and abiding spiritual connection to the world. This is a worldview where the sacred is not separate from the everyday, but woven into the fabric of existence. The land itself is sacred, a living entity, a relative, a teacher. Mountains, rivers, trees are beings with spirit and power. This spiritual understanding finds its voice in art of incredible beauty and diversity. Intricate beadwork of the Plains tribes, geometric pottery of the Pueblo peoples. Native art is more than decoration. It is a form of prayer, a way of telling stories, a physical manifestation of identity. The pattern on a basket, the carving on a totem pole, the design on a woven blanket, all carry deep meaning. They tell creation stories, family lineages, and of sacred beings. Language and music are the breath of this cultural soul. Indigenous languages are rich, complex vessels of knowledge, each offering unique ways of seeing the world. Music, too, is essential. The beat of the drum is the heartbeat of Mother Earth, a rhythm connecting the community to the cosmos. Songs are used for healing, celebration, ceremony, and for telling ancient stories of the people. These traditions, spiritual connection to the land, creation of meaningful art, and the power of language and story, have sustained native peoples through centuries of hardship. They are not relics of the past but living forces guiding and inspiring native communities today. The story of America is incomplete without acknowledging the immense contributions of its first peoples. Perhaps their most significant gift was agricultural. Long before Europeans arrived, native farmers had domesticated a stunning array of plants that would go on to feed the globe. Corn, potatoes, tomatoes, squash, beans, peppers, chocolate, these are all foods that were first cultivated by the indigenous peoples of the Americas. It is hard to imagine Italian cuisine without tomatoes or Irish history without the potato. Their technological ingenuity extended far beyond the farm. Canoe, snowshoes, moccasins, hammock, these were practical, elegant solutions to the challenges of living on this land. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, also known as the Iroquois League, had a sophisticated system of government based on principles of peace, consensus, and representation. Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and other founders studied this system. The idea of many states united as one nation has deep roots in the soil of this continent. These contributions are often overlooked, but they are woven into the fabric of modern life. Every time we eat a meal with corn or potatoes, paddle a canoe down a river, or speak of the ideals of a representative government, we are touching upon a legacy that began with the first peoples of this land. Their knowledge, their ingenuity, and their political philosophies were not just part of their history, they became part of the world's history. Recognizing these gifts is a vital step in understanding the full, complex, and rich story of America and the world we inhabit today. After centuries of decline and hardship, the 20th century marked a remarkable resurgence. The 21st century continued that resurgence. The population dropped to about 250,000 in the late 19th century and has been steadily growing. Today, millions identify as American Indian or Alaska Native, a demographic and cultural rebirth. This is survival turned revival, a new dawn. The people are still here. Their numbers show enduring strength. The political landscape has changed dramatically. Today, the United States recognizes 574 native nations. Each tribe is a sovereign entity with the inherent right to govern itself, manage its own affairs, relate to the U.S. government on a nation-to-nation basis. This sovereignty, while constantly challenged, is the bedrock of modern tribal life. It lets tribes operate their own governments, court systems, police forces, schools. It is the political expression of persistence, the right to determine their future, on lands they've called home for centuries. Education and economic development are key pillars of this modern renaissance. Tribal colleges and universities, providing culturally relevant education. They empower a new generation of native leaders, doctors, teachers, entrepreneurs. These institutions preserve language, preserve culture, and give students skills for the 21st century economy. Many tribes move beyond gaming, building businesses in technology, tourism, agriculture, energy. This economic self-sufficiency funds social programs and builds a sustainable future for their communities. Life today blends the ancient and the modern. Morning language classes, afternoon computer coding. Tribal leaders use modern legal strategies to protect ancient land rights and sacred sites. Not frozen in the past, a dynamic community honoring heritage and embracing opportunities. Native America today is nation-building, active, creative, determined, for generations yet to come. Despite the remarkable progress of recent decades, Native American nations continue to face significant and complex challenges. The fight to protect their rights, their lands, and their very identity is an ongoing struggle, one that requires constant vigilance and unwavering resolve. At the forefront of this struggle are issues of land and sovereignty. Many treaties signed with the U.S. government were broken, leading to the loss of vast territories. Today, tribes are engaged in legal and political battles to protect the lands they still hold, to secure water rights, and to prevent environmental degradation from mining and energy projects that threaten their sacred sites and natural resources. The preservation of culture, particularly language, is another urgent battle. Of the hundreds of indigenous languages once spoken across North America, many have already gone silent, and many more are critically endangered, spoken only by a handful of elders. In response, tribes are mounting heroic efforts to revitalize their languages. They are creating immersion schools, developing language apps, and recording elders to ensure that the voices of their people will continue to be heard by future generations. Sovereignty remains a cornerstone of the modern struggle. While tribes are recognized as sovereign nations, that sovereignty is constantly tested by federal and state governments. Legal disputes over jurisdiction, taxation, and the regulation of resources are common. Asserting tribal sovereignty is not about isolation, it is about having the authority to provide for the well-being of their own citizens, to protect their culture, and to engage with the outside world on their own terms. It is the fundamental right of self-determination, the right to govern themselves as their ancestors did, but in a modern context. These challenges are formidable, but they are being met with the same resilience and determination that has characterized Native peoples for centuries. A new generation of activists, lawyers, artists, and leaders is rising to meet the moment. They are using technology and social media to organize and raise awareness. They are building coalitions with non-native allies. They are drawing strength from their cultural traditions to fuel their fight for a just and sustainable future. The enduring fight for tomorrow is not just a struggle against adversity. It is a powerful affirmation of life, identity, and the unyielding hope for a better future. The vibrant cultures of Native America are not confined to museums or history books. They are alive and dynamic, celebrated in ways that connect the past to the present. One of the most powerful and visible expressions of this is the powwow. These gatherings are a kaleidoscope of color, sound, spirit. They are social events, family reunions, sacred ceremonies, dancers in magnificent regalia adorned with intricate beadwork, eagle feathers, move to the thunderous, unifying beat of the drum. The horse transformed Plains Indian culture in the 17th and 18th centuries, and remains a potent symbol of freedom and strength. Before the horse arrived, Plains tribes were largely pedestrian hunters. The horse allowed them to travel farther, hunt buffalo more efficiently, develop a nomadic culture of unparalleled grace and power. Today, the connection to the horse remains deep. Horsemanship is still a source of pride, celebrated in parades, races, community events. The horse is a relative, a partner, a living link to the glorious High Plains history of their ancestors. Among the most sacred symbols in many native cultures is the bald eagle. This magnificent bird is seen as a messenger, a being that flies closest to the Creator. Its feathers are considered sacred, and are earned through acts of honor and service to the community. They are worn with great reverence in ceremonies and on regalia, representing truth, strength, spiritual connection. The eagle is a powerful reminder of the sacred responsibilities that people have to their Creator, their community, and to the natural world. Its presence is a blessing, a symbol of the highest ideals. These living traditions, the powwow, the partnership with the horse, and the reverence for the eagle, are not mere echoes of a bygone era. They are the rhythms of today. They are how cultural identity is affirmed, how communities are strengthened, and how the sacred connection to the past is carried forward into the future. They are a joyful and powerful declaration that native cultures are not only surviving, but thriving with beauty, dignity, and grace in the modern world. The story of Native Americans is, in the end, a story of survival, resilience, and hope. It is the story of an unbroken circle. Despite waves of disease, centuries of conflict, policies aimed at assimilation, they have held on. They have endured the unimaginable, and they have emerged into the 21st century not as relics of the past but as vibrant modern nations looking toward the future. Their presence is a powerful testament to the strength of their cultures, the depth of their spiritual beliefs, and the unbreakable bond they share with this land and with one another. This resilience is not a passive quality, it is an active creative force. It is seen in the tribal leader fighting in court to protect a sacred river. It is heard in the voice of a child learning their ancestral language in an immersion school. It is felt in the beat of the drum at a powwow, a rhythm that has echoed across this continent for generations. It is tasted in the foods that have nourished the world, and it is seen in the art that continues to tell the ancient stories in new and beautiful ways. Resilience is the quiet determination to carry on, to honor the ancestors, and to build a better world for the children. The path forward is one of self-determination and cultural revitalization. Native nations are rebuilding their economies, strengthening their governments, and reclaiming their stories. They are blending ancient wisdom with modern knowledge to solve the complex problems they face. They are teaching the world about sustainable living, about the importance of community, and about the deep spiritual connection that comes from seeing the earth not as a resource to be used, but as a relative to be loved and respected. Their voices, for so long silenced or ignored, are now being heard in halls of government, in classrooms, and in the arts. The circle remains unbroken. It connects the distant past to the living present and reaches toward a future of promise. The story of Native America is a fundamentally human story of struggle and triumph, of loss and renewal. The people are still here, their nations are strong, and their story, a story written on the land itself, continues.